Get up. That's right. Get up, get active, and get moving. Listen, welcome to the very first episode. It's Kevin White's Time is Life. I appreciate you being here. If this is your first time, listen, I got a lot for you. I got a whole lot for you. As a matter of fact, I got some special guests and I want to bring them on, but a couple of different things. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. And you know me, and you know I'm about mindset, positive energy, good vibes. But most importantly, I'm all about growth. You know what I'm saying? I'm all about making sure that we understand that it's a bigger picture, that we can do more, right? Now, my conversations are not always going to be about that. A lot of times it's going to be thought-provoking things and things that are going to get you thinking about, what can I do better? But most importantly, am I doing the right thing right now? So with that being said, as I mentioned, I got a couple of guests that I want to bring on board. And before we do that, I just want to let me go ahead and grab these bios real quick, kind of tell you a little bit about the individuals that we're going to be bringing on. Initially, what I was going to do is I was going to wait till the end, but I want to get this out of the way. I want to give a big shout out to my sponsors, Just Me, T-shirts and apparel for the hat and obviously the get up gear over here. You see that real quick? Big shout out to you. And then also to Race, Real Action Community Engagement out of Canton, Ohio. Big shout out to Race, making moves in their community. So let me go ahead and jump right into it. My first guest was born in Aurora, Illinois, and graduated from Illinois State University, where, by the way, he was the first generation student to pursue higher education. Let's see here. He also received the NAACP Martin Luther King Jr. Character Award and Phenomenal Man of the Year Award, right? He studied abroad and he spent some time over in Europe. He also worked alongside the Orlando Magic. This guy, and according to his bio and what I know from him, because of him being someone that I talk to on a regular basis and I've been a mentor to, we're talking about a really, really intelligent young man who brings a lot to the table. I'm actually honored to have this individual, and I can't say enough about him. Very, very thought-provoking individual. Everybody, if you could, please help me welcome Mr. Markel Oliver. Markel, how are you, my friend?
Greetings, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm doing well. So, the name of your company, Pure Alchemy, right? Uniting the ideas of tomorrow today. Tell me a little bit about it.
Man, this is amazing. This feels good to take the conversations from the phone to the big screen. Yeah, I hope people playing this in the car, hook it up to your Apple TVs and everything.
That's right.
But Pure Alchemy, oh my goodness, it's such a blessing to be here to even talk about it. It's a passion project of mine. The first event I've ever done in my life was in 8th grade when I was in middle school. And through my journey, I've been able to meet some really fantastic individuals, some great mentors, some great friends, people that really want to change the world, change the way that we approach things, change the way that we interact with things, change the way that we change our outlooks, and just really test ourselves. And so we would go around the schools and we would talk to kids about our journeys in college. And I thought the beauty of that was like, we don't have it figured out yet. We're figuring it out. And a lot of times, big companies and corporations, they want for sure data like this, like that. They want to know what they're getting. And I try to tell kids a lot, you don't know. You gotta try some things and figure things out. And sitting back with some friends that have, the similar ideas as me. So let's create this thing, Pure Alchemy. Pure, obviously, purity and something clean, clear. Alchemy, to be able to see something from its lowest form into its greatest. And so I thought that was amazing for us to create something that we could be socially impactful, being in schools, being in folks, on their television screens, on their social medias, and just letting them know, hey, this is real life. This is your opportunity to grow to whatever greatness is to you, flourish into it, and be able to embrace the beauty that God blessed you with. So Pure Alchemy, that's what I'm so excited to be representing today. And thank again for having me on.
Right on. Now I'll tell you, man. I mean, you made a powerful statement in the beginning and saying it's good to take this from the phones to the big screen, because this is like officially this is our first real time, like having a discussion like we usually have on the phone, right? Face to face, I should say. I mean, obviously we're screen to screen, but face to face. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. This is big, man. And again, I tell Tasha all the time, my wife, and I know you work with her because that's where it all started. I tell her all the time, you remind me of one of my good friends, Tito. Tito, you know what I mean, cat that I grew up with in Atlanta. You know what I mean? You remind me of this dude so much, man. So nonetheless, you know what I mean, before I get all, misty-eyed, you know what I mean? Let me go ahead and bring on our next guest over here. I want to introduce you all to another good friend of mine, man. I mean, we're talking maybe 21, 20, 22 years. This person is, and I have bios in front of me so I don't mess this up, Army Desert Storm veteran, father advocate. He has his associates in liberal arts and management from Los Angeles Harbor College, bachelor's in communications and social science in California from California State Dominguez Hills. Currently a local veteran employment representative for the state of California and a commissioner of veteran affairs in Carson, California. One of the big things that he is big on, and you know, I mean, very, very intelligent brother again. But one of the huge things is he's on is mental health and how we as a society really don't understand that we all really need help when it comes to that. Sure, we think we're fine, right? But you know what I mean? We're talking about someone who spent some time overseas in war where people are, you know what I mean, literally throwing bullets at him multiple from different directions and what could happen to an individual when they come back from that, right? The other thing that I'd like to really hone in on is that he's currently, you know what I mean, doing what he needs to do to get his doctorate in psychology with a focus on behavioral psychology. And one little note, only 1% of those psychology doctors are African-American. So with that being said, I want to bring on our next guest, Mr. Demetrius Vandergriff. D, how are you, sir?
Hey, it's good to be here with you, and I appreciate you reaching out to me and making me a part of something big and something collaborative. You know, like you said, basically taking the conversation that we have, all the time and just taking it into some other platforms so that we can share that amongst other people and people can kind of see how we can, have a casual conversation, but have a lot of nutrient topics and nutrient ideas because we're all different. We're all going to bring our experiences and our thoughts and our opinions and ideas to the table. And, and the fact that we've had this long relationship, talking about a myriad of things and going and growing through a lot of things. So I'm glad to be here.
That's right.
And like you said, that mental health, that's something that's become a very big part of my life over the last several years, being a Desert Storm vet. And like many have, we're all human beings. So we all have that aspect of ourselves, that mental health that most of the time we don't put a lot of deliberate, intentional focus on dealing with. It does take time and it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot out of a person to actually face, the things that bother us, the traumas, things that have happened to us in the past, things that we may not want to even think about. But to be quite honest, we need to learn to nurture each other into actually getting onto a mental health path into our life, because that's one of the things I've realized that has helped me align my life. Like you said earlier, I'm a local vet employment rep. So I work with many veterans and their families. So me having a perspective, being a veteran myself, and understanding a lot of these different kinds of challenges, I try to encourage, other veterans and the people in the veteran ecosystem, to talk about mental health and to encourage and support it, instead of not talk about it, instead of
sweeping it under the rug.
Sweeping it under the rug.
Because it is.
Because we see far too often when we don't deal with it, the huge negative impacts it has to our lives.
Yeah.
And so whether you're a veteran or not, it's a very critical aspect of our human experience. And so, I'm glad that you brought me on. I'm glad to be able to talk about it. I've never been able to talk about it before the past few years. Like many, it's just one of those things that you just, you kind of shy away from, because of the stigma. But now I'm past that. So
yeah, you know what though? I mean, I'll tell you this, like talking to you today, and looking back at the way that we used to interact then, I have to tell you, D, you've always been the guy that you are. You know what I'm saying? So I can definitely see a shift, and I can see. I think that the biggest thing that stands out to me is your focus in helping other people understand what is possibly going on and having them not just look in the mirror, but really, really like own it, because it's not necessarily about, and this is obviously my opinion on the thing. And I've talked to a few people as far as mental health is concerned, but I know that you're way deep into it. But it's not necessarily about looking in the mirror and then, eyeing it down and calling it out like that. It's about acceptance and understanding what's going on. And if I'm wrong about that, feel free to correct me. That way we know that we're getting the right message out there. But again, I know that we all have challenges, right? And the fact that we all have challenges, the only way to deal with those challenges is to look at it and face it, even if it's one step at a time, man. Small bites type stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think that like you hit the nail right on the head. But prior to acceptance, it's obviously life is so complex for all of us. As human beings, we're all on a spectrum because no one stays in some specific space 100% of the time. And life is delicate for every last one of us. And sometimes moments and incidents and traumas and things happen, and we need to learn how to deal with these things in a healthy way. But prior to getting to that point of acceptance, is reaching out to someone in a clinical way. And when I say clinical, obviously I'm not saying there's no value to talking to friends or a pastor or to someone that may have a master's in social work. But I think it's very important when we're dealing with anything clinical in our life that we deal with someone that we're disconnected from, someone that we don't know personally, right. And actually hopefully build a trusting relationship with them so that you can begin the pathway of that mental health analysis, because it's different for every single human being on the planet. And once you get the mental health analysis and you start start understanding what that is, then you can accept it. Mm-hmm. And from acceptance, then you can begin the journey of dealing with it and learning and growing and evolving from it. Instead of being, what I call weighed down, you become fueled by it. It's right. It's like taking the stinger off of the bee, because pain and things that bother us are going to be what they are. So we can't undo what's already done. But what we can do is learn how to cope with it in a healthy way, because until we deal with it in a healthy way, it has tremendous negative impacts, and it affects all of us differently. And it can cause a lot of very negative effects in one's entire life, professionally, personally, relationships.
All the way around. Yeah, all the way around. I tell you what, this is what we're going to do is because I already know when it comes to mental health, you're extremely passionate about it. There's a few other individuals that I do plan on bringing on the show that are also extremely passionate about it. I often hear NFL players talk about it. I often hear, even NBA players talk about it. So I do plan on bringing other individuals on to where we could have, a synergy as such and things of that nature. But you said one of the things that I really gravitated to, and that's it caused me to want to segue to where we are right now, which is the overall scope of today's episode is going to be about bridging the Great Divide. Now, when it comes to bridging the Great Divide, there's a couple of different ways that we can look at it. especially considering how, the country and even the world in some respect is in social unrest. I mean, it's one of those situations to where we know that things are going on and they've been going on for a long time. And, people on both sides are just like, yeah, maybe it is, maybe it, whatever the case may be. But it's even deeper than that, because all of it has to start somewhere, right? A lot of these things are taught. But the great divide that I'm talking about which is one of the reasons why I have both of you on, is, the great divide between the younger generation and the older generation. Like, no matter how you slice it. I mean, I'll even go back as far as when I was younger. It was different for me. Like when I'm talking to my kids, and and I look at the children out there, or the teenagers, or the young adults, whatever you want to say, and for them, it's about wearing, skinny jeans and all this other stuff. Well, for us growing up, it was about wearing a big old baggy over, big old baggy clothes and all this other stuff. And my mom and dad used to ask the same question that I asked them. What are you wearing? You know what I'm saying? But even with that being said, it's deeper, because, the way that we used to get information when I was younger was slow and methodical. It was given to us almost like a drip, right? Whereas today, the younger generation can access information at their fingertips. It's constantly being bombarded at them. So, I want to talk about that, because with that being said, obviously the older generation and the younger generation, they may think similarly, but I guarantee you there are some things that are a lot different, right? So I want to ask a question to both of you, right? And I'll start with you, Markel. Do you think there's a divide between the older and generations, and why?
I do think that there is a divide. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's great. The divide is definitely there, but it comes with the territory. When you grow older and you've experienced life, you've seen things, you've gone through things, you've got scammed, you've lost jobs, you've lost dreams, you've sacrificed things. You start to become, I think, a little bit more conservative as you get older, because you felt what losing looks like. So as you get older, you want to protect all the things that you gain, all the things that you own. And so, when there's an OG talking and saying like, "Hey, young blood, yeah, man, I wouldn't necessarily do that because I've been there, did that, moved here, moved there," and the young people is kind of like, "Well, I'm going to do it anyway because I gotta get out, I gotta get out, I gotta get out." And I think the disconnect, the reason why the disconnect is there is because you have someone that's on the other side that says, "Yo, I've been there, I've seen that, I did that." But I think the issue is folks that are experienced forget that you kind of got to bump through life a little bit. You got to hit your head here and there to kind of get your own bruises, get your own, your own scars to say that, okay, this is, because it's different. You get an answer, right? We can all cheat on the test. That's easy. But when someone asks you, why don't I do this, or why should I do that? And you don't have a sturdy answer one way or the other, it's just kind of like, well, did this person learn anything? So I think a little bit more grace from the OGs and a little bit more, patience, and willingness to listen and understand the concepts that OGs place upon us, younger folks. I think that kind of, gets to the portion of solving.
Right on. I you know what I mean? I agree with you in some respect. I agree with what you're saying. I'm wondering though, based upon what you're saying, as far as like bumping heads and getting your own scars and stuff like that, do you ever feel like, you know what I mean? The person is probably telling you that, just like you said, "Hey, OG, hey, listen, young blood, you know what I'm saying? I didn't been there, I didn't did that." You know what I mean? You don't think that they could be possibly, trying to keep you from going through what they went through, and that which in turn could give you a leg up now, because now it's a situation where you don't have to do it that way. Maybe you could try doing it this way, and then you're even one level higher, and now we can look at it from a whole nother vantage point. Do you ever think about it like that?
I do think about it like that very often, but the same, I can't say yes or no for everything, right? Because I think that based on perspective, you can make your argument to either side. And so for the same person that says, hey, I'm like, you should have listened. I don't know why. I just think the old folks talk like that. Yeah, man, got the little, that's how I feel like they swag is. I mess with it though. But like, the same way that, OG can say, well, how come you didn't listen to this? It's the same reason I can say, well, what was so great about Bill Clinton? What was so amazing about him being able to play a damn saxophone and uh, you know doing all the things that he did that we praise in the Black community? How far did that set us back? How has it manipulated the way that we make decisions and stuff like that? And so I ain't not trying to necessarily pick on Bill, but I'm just saying my point is that I could look back at the OGs and say, well, y'all made decisions and signed off on deals that I don't necessarily think I would have done. I personally don't know. And it's easy for me to say because I wasn't at the time. I don't
Sure.
know. I don't know that I'm super mad at Larry Hoover. You know what I mean? Like the way that you see, at least here in Chicago, you see, and even in the suburbs, sometimes you see such little guidance and such little direction. And when I look at, these Larry Hoover stories and listen to people talk about the genius he was when it came to being a leader, being able to know, hey, I can go to Miss Susie house and I can get my dairy products. I can go to Derek's house and I can get my pharmaceutical stuff. We didn't really have to support the Walmarts and all that stuff like that to the degree that we depend upon them now. People had their specialties, and that's how we supported community. So the hood isn't necessarily the hood that we think of today. The hood today, I think, if we look at it as scarce, very, little culture, little understanding, little development. Well, back then, like, sure, like, it may have been a little drugs, passing around. Yeah, mugs wearing different colors, but it was some direction that, just because you book smart don't mean that you can't get out hustled by someone that's street smart. So there's just many different things that, yeah, sure. In some scenarios, I can say, yeah, we should have listened to the OGs. But there are other times where I'll be like, especially right now where we are today, our mentors need to start listening to the mentees and flip the role, because we are in such a new place right now. And it's a blessing to be in a new place. And it's a blessing for a mentee to become the mentor, because folks want you to become so smart up here, and that you're not using your hands, you're not learning and knowing the whys behind why we do things. But what people don't tell you about that, when we're doing these AI, we're having these robots, smart cars, smart TVs, smart laundromat, when you have all that, things are supposed to be outsmarted, updated as time goes on. So if you only got it up here, it can be out hustled and out thought as time goes on, because you learn information. You see what I'm saying? So like, I just think it's a great balance, and that's just where I think that we are. It's not a yes or no totally. It's situational, trial and error.
Yeah. No, that's all good stuff, man. That's all really, really good stuff. And I'm glad that you shared it with us. I have to tell you, I think that, to your point, absolutely, 100%. You have individuals. I was the same way. I'm not even going to trip. Both of my kids are the same way. I go through it with my 16-year-old right now, where it's like, you try to give them, and in some respect, it's a bit different. And then obviously I have kids, and I know that D, you have a daughter as well. But I you try to give them something, and maybe it's the delivery. Who knows? Maybe it's the delivery, or maybe it's the understanding. But the bottom line is that I'm sure it comes from a place of growth. But you brought up a lot of good stuff. I mean, even when you was talking about Bill, you was taking shots at Bill. I'm like, whoa, take it easy, big fella.
Anybody and that's the beauty of the world that we live in. To me, anybody can get the smoke. Everything that I say isn't right. Everything that I say isn't the gospel, is the truth. I like challenge people to challenge me. I know what I know. I don't know what I don't know. And I don't take offense to not knowing things. And I don't think that everybody should know everything. So
that's what's up. We learn something from everybody we come in contact with, straight up, if you're open to it, right? So I'll ask you, D, do you think that there is a divide between the older and younger generation? And why do you think?
A divide between older and younger? I don't know that I can't. Yeah. What's funny about it is, is the flip in life becoming a parent and being responsible for guiding another, right? And for me, I've just come from that kind of fabric, and the community I come from and the family I come from, it was always about each one teach one. So I always had, older people around me planting seeds, and I always did the same. A lot of the young men that grew up around me that are 8 and 10 and 12 years younger than me, they're doing wonderful things, master's degrees. One did a residency at Oxford. Another one is running for the 3rd term of city council in the city that I am a commissioner in. But yeah, there is, that's the interesting thing. There's always been a disconnect, and if in a sense between generations. And I think that where we are now, it's interesting because I'm past the point of understanding. I'm at a place of overstanding. And so I've been all over this world. I've been through pretty much just about every circumstance and heard every other circumstance I may not have been through. And I'm not saying I know it all and heard everything, but there's really probably nothing that someone's going to share with me that's going to shock me or surprise me, at this point. And so being in the posture of overstanding and not just understanding, it's interesting to kind of view these differences. And so when I talk to the young folks today, I always talk to them with a sense of confidence and a sense of mentorship, and so, because I look at it like this, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. And so it's never up to us we can't force anybody, not even our own children, nor should we try. It's about, love, affection, guidance, and direction. That's always been my thing. And I thought about this before I ever even became a parent. I thought about the kind of strategy and the kind of relationship I wanted to have as a father, as a parent. And quite honestly, I've actually been able to achieve that with my daughter. And so it hasn't been, thankfully, a very little discipline at all, and from the people that are around her, my family and other, they tell me, and then she also demonstrates that she is listening and so forth. But I think it's up to us to not try to make anyone like us. It's about encouraging people to their potential, because every person, every place, and everything is uniquely constructed. And so it's about understanding, not judgment, because we've all fallen short. No one's perfect. We're going to be flawed until our last breath, no matter how much we accomplish, no matter how much we learn. And so it's about not judging people, places, and things, or trying to rank people, places, and things. I think that the evolutionary thought is more about understanding. And with understanding, it's very simple. You just listen to what's being stated and understand why it's being stated. And if you don't understand, that's fine. Ask a question, and then by doing this very simple thing, you nurture understanding. But when you filter it through this judgmental kind of filter where well, if they had to said it like this, well, his tone, or she coulda, then what you do is you delay your own learning. You delay your own nutrient by thinking this way, instead of getting the nutrient from the message. And I think that if we do this back and forth from person to person of any age, it's a healthier, it sets up a healthier exchange, because the young people, it's always about how we express ourselves. And as young people, that's what happens. We go through these clothes, like you alluded to earlier. You talk about why are you wearing that? And and having a daughter myself that's 14, and I'm looking at it and going, wow, that's interesting, but the truth is, hey, we're all trying to figure it out. My answers may not work for you, but what I can encourage you to do is to be mindful and to seek your answers, because you have to walk your journey. I can't walk it for you,
That's
and
right.
some of that is going to require, or it's not going to require, but some of that walk is going to cause some stumbles, some falls, and,
Yeah.
and it's called life. And so, and in that, each of us has to learn how to figure our lives out and carve out our lives and define ourselves. And I don't think that you ever stop. I think that, if you continue that journey, then you always redefine yourself. You always learn. You always try to grow. You
Mm,
always want to evolve. I think that's it's a healthier way to try to have these connections with people. And yes, there are differences between all of us. Even all three of us look very similar because our shade is black, but we're all different. We don't all
that-
have the same experience, you
that's
know.
right.
And so, and I think that we need to extend that understanding not only to young people, but to each other, because sometimes we get into these little tits. Like you say, we have this so much social unrest going on. We have
Mm,
Black Lives Matter, which has been going on for the last several years, and actually has been going on for since we've been here, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things. But I think sometimes we get into this tit for tat for trying to define blackness and trying to say, well, if you didn't struggle like I struggled, you ain't quite as black,
mm,
or and these kind of weird, So yeah, I think that we need to extend this understanding to each other, and if we do that, it's not about, I don't have to agree with you, I don't have to like what you're saying, but you know
right.
what? If I extend my understanding, that's more important than liking and agreeing anyway.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that right there. Most people are listening to respond. And that's where the issue lies. They don't want to understand where you're coming from. They just want to, okay, halfway through what you're saying, they want to respond, right? So I'll say this because I mean, you said a lot of things in there. And Mark Hill, back to you. I know that you had said a few things also. I have to tell you, that flip that you were talking about, where the mentor and the teacher, and D, you saying that the teacher doesn't show up until the student shows up. I have to tell you, just like you said, yeah, just like I said, or just like you said a moment ago, man, you see things differently now that you have a child and someone that you have to raise. When my daughter was first born, what I mean, the first thing that I said to myself is, and I said to Tasha, my wife, I'm like, what do we do? I don't know what to do. I've never done this before. You know what I'm saying? So all we could do is the best that we could do, and which was more than enough. And we're continuing to do it. And it's the same thing with our son. So I agree with both of you in that regard. I also noticed that as you were saying a few things, D, and as you were saying a few things, Markel, you guys may have had some opinions about what each other was saying. Before I move on to my next question, did anybody have anything else they want to voice about why they think that the divide, or do you think that there's a divide between the older and the younger generation? Did either one of you have anything else you wanted to kind of put out there? No, Markel, I just saw you say no. You're good. D, fantastic. So let me ask you this: when do you think that may have occurred, though? Like this divide in the OGs or the older generation trying to kind of not necessarily bear down, but kind of put their their ways, their rules, their ideologies onto the younger generation. The younger generation saying, "Well, no, I want to figure it out myself." When would you say it became a point to where, okay, I'm going to stop listening and try to figure it out myself? Because I know when I was coming up, it took a village, a neighborhood. Street lights come on, and if I'm not at the house, Miss Mabel calling, you know what I mean? She's gonna either walk me to the house or she's gonna get on me, one of the two. But most importantly, what I mean, again, and this is just me, based upon the way that information and things are being shared these days, things are being done instantly, right? So when do you all think that this divide happened? And I'll start with you, D, and then I'll come to you, Kels.
To be quite honest, I think that if you look at history and you examine history from any perspective, you will always see a difference between the younger and older. I just think it's natural. I think that it gets back to the very simple idea that, you know, as human beings, we're all yearning to express ourselves. And, you know, and so I think that that has always been the case. I don't think that it's ever not been the case. I think that, you know, if you look at generationally, just in the, and just in my lifetime, and I think it's always been this way, you know, parents are always going to generally be the guiders and the overseers, and there comes a point where kids start just, you know, tuning out some of it, and, you know, and wanting to cut their own way, you know. And so I don't know I think that dynamic has always existed. I think it always will exist, you know. And is it a divide? Kind of, you know. I think that we're learning to be a little better because we all are growing up with talking. Like, even what we're doing now is becoming the nurtured thing to do,
right?
Not to not talk about it. And so we're used to it, and our kids, that's all they know, along with technology and everything else. And so I think that having an open mind, and being a little more open-minded as we progress through these generations, because I know for sure, and I know that my mother would attest to this, that I'm a lot more open-minded as a parent than she was. So, you know, and I think that we're learning, we're evolving. There's better information about a lot of these different things. Like you said, when you became parents, what do we do? Now, infinite amount of information and books, and there's even classes and on and on, and all of that, I think, gives way to how we individually decide the strategies that we want to utilize as parents and as people.
Right on. Markel, when
I don't know that
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know that I can pinpoint said situation. I do think, you know, a great divide has been since when we were sold as slaves, and we've been captured and taken to other countries. I think it's been since understanding our productivity levels, understanding what gets us better access. You know, I'm, you know, dark skinned, proud, but there's some folks hundreds of years ago that I'm like, I'd rather have been light skinned. I'd rather been a light skinned black than a dark skinned black. So I think that there was always times, there's always been some type of competitive drive amongst us, because if you look at least in education, there is, you know, when you look at Verb and you look at Afrocentric culture when it comes to education,
right?
Competition is an important part of that. Like, and it's not necessarily like, hey, I'm about to, you know, kill you, I'm going to kill you, D, but it's just like, oh, you got an 85 on the test? Okay, bet, cool. And I'm studying and everything like that, because I'm trying to get more than 85, because I'm like, what's up next week when we got that quiz and that test back? Hey, D, what you get? Yeah, well, I got 2 points higher. And so it's been like those little things that like we've always had. And so we like, damn, like me and light skin, you know what I mean? They get you in the house, you know what I mean? Hey man, like what's up? Like, you know, and we carry this hate, and we carry this issue into the way that we treat each other. And so I think the divide has been executed well and in a master way, because it still today has us going against each other, depending on the shape. Do you live in the city? Do you live in the suburbs? Are you up north? Are you from here? You're not our own. What can you bring to the table? Nah, you ain't us. What's your last name? Nah, we don't know them. You know, and it's just so many examples that we've kind of let be sub segments of how we choose to address each other. And it's been done in a beautiful way, because here we are, we still do it. We still look at those kids like right now. I mean, I don't know if it's happening in all inner cities, but I can look at the last 10 to 15 years, you know, when Chicago was bidding to host the Olympics, They're like, y'all got X amount of time to get y'all crime underway
Mm.
before we even consider coming here. Clean it up, get them out. And so what happens is now you're starting to see that change where those folks that's in the city are being pushed out to the suburbs. And then what's happening? Culture shock, because you see a black person like me, or you see a black person like someone that on the south side. Or we look the same, but we don't think the same. We don't move the same. You don't like the same food that I like. You know what I mean? And it has us going at each other. Like Dee was saying, you're not black enough, bro, because you ain't had to do this, that, and the third, or whatever. And I'm just kind of like, but I had to do it another way. You know what I mean? I had to find different ways to climb a different ladder. And so it got us looking at each other's plights as invalid. And that, on the outside perspective looking in, as the oppressor done an excellent job. At the oppressed, I'm like, let's wake up.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I like it. That's good stuff. So let me ask both of you this question real quick. Right. So how do we bridge this gap? Now we've all acknowledged the fact that there is something there. We've acknowledged the fact that a lot of it has to do with communication. And to your point, so eloquently put just now, Kels, a lot of it has been, mastermind and put into us, right? To where it's like we've started creating divide within ourselves, and we don't have to. So how do we bridge this gap that we have when it comes to the older and younger generations? And I'm gonna give both of you a quick platform to hit it real quick, because I have a lot more questions that I want to ask you. I'll start with you, Kels.
Yeah, I would just say understand that from the bat, it's going to be differences. Next time you go into work, or you go into your Zoom call, and this is my challenge. I always got to give people a challenge, every time I hit the platform. The challenge I would give is look at that person that you just really don't like, sitting on the left side of the screen. Like, damn, I can't really stand this person. I think all their ideas are stupid. I think that they wear their hair crazy. I think that the way that they dress is sloppy. Whatever the case may be that you don't like. Look at them and be like, ugh, that person. Look at that person and truly sit back and write a list to yourself. Don't put it in the office or nothing like that, you know what I mean? But to yourself, be like, what don't I like about this person? And then get to your whys. When you get to your whys, then sit to see and compare it to things that you've experienced. Typically, you start to find when people hate on something or they strongly dislike something, it comes from a few things. One, because they didn't have access to it or they don't do it. Or three, that they never been shown how to do something. The reason why I ain't like math class, I'm like, damn, I'm going to get a bad grade in this joint, da-da-da-da. But as soon as I understood what math class was and started to get it, I'm like, damn, when the next test? So understanding where the differences lie, accepting the differences, and understanding how to use those differences to propel us forward. Because I don't got to be I don't have to be at the same position as you. You know what I mean? I don't have to be the center. I don't have to be the point guard. But my role is cool. I know how to play my role, and that contributes to the team. That's what we need to start getting to. Everybody's role is not the same. Understand your role, understand your lane, and figure out how you can contribute to the fight. We are all on the same team, regardless of someone that says something way out of pocket. They are still on your team, and we are only as good as our weakest link. Shout out to all my coaches that told me
that. Right on. D. So, you know what I mean? How do you think we can bridge the gap?
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think that, like we're all alluding to, it's communication. We have to have each other in a more open-minded way, and realize that nobody sitting at the table is an enemy. We're all. There's I could sit there and nitpick at any person, and there's things about you that I don't like. Period. And I don't care who you are. I mean, to be honest with you, I just think that's just the human reality. There's things we like about each other, things we don't like about each other. But if we allow that to disable us from connecting or talking, then we're losing, because we're all in it together, like you said, regardless of how we break it down, color, age, or any other kind of thoughts and ideas and subscriptions that we all may have. We're all different no matter what. There's none of us that's going to agree with the other 100% of the time, 90% of the time, and we've all made decisions and done things that are regrettable, things that we can learn from, but you're not going to agree with every decision you make for yourself. So the idea that you're going to agree with the decisions that someone else makes 100% of the time, it's not even a healthy thought or an objective, but it comes down to being able to extend our humanity one to the other, and by doing that, without the judgment, without liking, without agreeing, if you can subtract those three ideas from the thought, it's not about liking, agreeing, or judging. It's just about understanding. And with understanding, the only thing that really is required is just listening.
Right.
That's it. I don't have to like anything you say, not one word. I don't have to agree with anything you say. And judgment becomes a wasted thing to employ. But if I just listen, then I can understand you. And if you offer that to me, then you can understand me. And now we understand each other. And then from there, we can build, some intersectionality and some synergy and get some things done.
Right on. I like it.
Can I piggyback off something real quick that I like that D said? Is about putting ourselves in a position to understand. Yes. And also that goes back onto us. And I'll just, I say us, I mean black because we all black on the screen. You know what I mean? So if you're hearing this, it may not apply to you on this particular side. But
right.
we see people from Bloomington, Indiana, or Arkansas, Nebraska, Montana. These folks don't experience things the same way a white person does in Philadelphia, in Boston, in Florida, when they encounter black people. So when they see black people or Hispanics, they see it on the news. What does the news do? What does the job of the news do? It's supposed to sell you things, whether that's advertisement or narratives. It's one of the two. It's one of the other. And so when we hear someone like, no, I really don't mess with black people. People be like, oh my God, like get him fired, get him out of here. And it's kind of like, get to the why. If I saw natives just coming around walking my in my backyard, with whatever, I was like, what is? I mean, I may not react the same way, but I'm like, what is this? This is not my norm. And so something that we forget as the person that feels like, damn, this person don't understand me, this person don't get me. It's just like we have to understand folks that we view as privileged. We have to view, the people that like, dang, bro, you got the car, you got the house, you got the money, you ain't had to struggle like I had to struggle. But those same people, we were talking about mental health and stuff like that, those people go through their, issues as well. And they're not always privy to be exposed to how things are hard for other folks or different for other folks in different places. And so it's like when you grow up, especially if you look at those formative years like that, I mean, shoot, when you get to 9 to about 15, and then especially 15 to 21, you only know what you know. You only know your base, how you grew up, how your parents taught you, how your neighborhoods work, how your community work, how that county worked. So when you go out to the world, it's a little, whoa, hold up. I grew up in an area where I'm just like, okay, I see the good, I see the bad. I went to South Carolina for a year to study at HBCU, Claflin University. And I'm like, at first I'm like, I'm black, they black, what's up? You know what I mean? But then I got down there, like, wait, what is really up? Like, I'm talking like to them, I'm talking like this, and I'm drummer, but like me, I'm just kind of like, I'm just spitting game. I'm just me. But they're like, nah, you don't, the way you walk ain't even from here. So it's just like, my point is, it's like, we grow up with certain privileges. And just because someone's privilege may overlook our own, we can't forget to do return the favor by, trying to understand where someone else that we think is privy to a better quality of life, where they're coming from as well. But I thought, well said.
No, that's what's up. All about experiences. You know what I'm saying? All about experiences. So let's do this real quick because I don't want to hold y'all too long. Let's change gears real quick. And, I know we've had a couple of technical difficulties, you know what I'm saying? Some crackling here, some pop in there, a couple of freezes. But I want to ask you guys something real quick. And, I guess what I'll do is I'll shoot this one over to you, Markel, to start. In your opinion, right, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for people to get out and vote? Like both. You couldn't wait to get that when I saw your face, to get out and vote both. You know what I mean, locally and in the state as well as nationally. How important do you think it is to vote?
I knew that question was coming. I mean, I appreciate the question.
He was like, "Ooh, let's have that."
Yeah. When you look at other countries, folks lose their right to vote if they don't vote. People lose their life for not fulfilling their duties and responsibilities as a citizen. We here in the United States of America, North America, we do it when it inconveniences us. Damn, I'm trying to watch football without seeing Colin Kaepernick kneel. Man, I'm trying to watch this without seeing Black Lives Matter. Man, I'm trying to see this without, okay, I guess, it's affecting me now. I'll go and vote. I think it's very important to vote. I think it's more important to be aware of what you're voting for and who you are voting for. But I'll be the first one to say I think it's more important. The most important thing right now is for folks to really be open to changing their mentality. We must, old, young, black, white, whatever, we must have a shift in the way that we think about things, the way that we approach things, and the way that we try to deliver the knowledge, deliver the process for us to live a better life. Simply voting is not going to do anything. It hasn't done anything. And in ways, I think it's hurt us more than help. If I'm just, being honest with you,
tell me more about that. Yeah, tell me more about that. I would like, because I heard you say shift, and I agree with you. Tell me more about that, where the hurt versus helping portion.
Yeah, I just keep it a buck. And again, like, I don't know everything, but this is my naked perspective. Like, to me, like, folks got real happy when Kamala Harris, was, named, VP. Cool. That is very, very cool. But I had the privilege and honor of being able to work for the NBA with the Orlando Magic. And I sat back, they asked us, it was like, they, had Adam Silver, shout out to Adam Silver. I think he's, one of the best commissioners that we have in all the sports. He was on a call and other folks were on a call, and he was talking about how, like, they're trying to understand this. They want to be very precise about understanding exactly what's going on with the race. I mean, that's kind of funny that that's taking y'all all day to come up with that answer when we know what race wars are. We know what the Civil War is. We know what the Civil Rights War. We know what the Gullah Wars were, the Stoner Rebellions. We know what all of these issues have been. We know the history of America, the dirt and the greed that America has had. We know those things. So it's not like it's coming out of nowhere. And so we want to take such slow poke time and being proactive. But in the meantime, we'll put a Black Lives Matter sign on the court. We'll put Black Lives Matter on the street. We'll put Black Lives Matter on their jerseys. Hey, why? You know what? We'll even throw a couple of dollars at you guys. Great. That doesn't really change anything. And I don't want folks to be so blown away by symbols. Symbols are just that. Period. What are you actually doing? What are you actually trying to provide to us? And I think we let people get off the hook so many times. The way that the LGBTQ plus community, the way that Hispanics, looked at Obama was like, look here, bro, you don't change some things, hey, we ain't voting for you. And it's not anything malicious. It's just like, bro, like, how much do we have to do in order to get it? What is owed to us? And it doesn't come until we start to unify and know exactly why we're coming to them. So in return, I think that we've gotten, police officers in schools, which is an idiotic idea, in my opinion, because We're lazy. We say defund the police, but are we really trying to go to the school outside of a basketball game, outside of a football game, outside when our kids being suspended or being a disruption in class? Are we trying to go up there to support? Are we trying to participate on the parent teachers association? Are we trying to be involved in the community? Are we trying to be able to produce programs? Are we trying to use our resources to bring in opportunities for these kids that don't want to go to college, that want to still be able to provide for their families and stuff like that? Are we sitting there representing the people that are off the posters? Are we doing that into our communities? No, we're not. So just like you said, Kev, earlier, you were raised by a village. The reason why we can't have a village now is because folks cannot unify. Folks can identify what exactly it is that they want to be answered, what exactly it is that they're going to do when they get involved, what exactly it is that they are shooting and aiming for. So if you can't understand it, I'm going to get the money to the government, or I'm going to get the money to these people to try to figure it out for you all in a generic way. But the reason why that doesn't work, and I can't find a better word than segregation, so excuse me, for that. But the reason why I need to see pro-Black doctors, pro-Black lawyers, pro-Black psychologists, psychiatric folks, is because, like, folks with dermatologists, I need someone that understands what I'm going through. So all that to say, folks, we've been too identity politics, identity symbols. Oh, they like us because they said they do. But when you look to the why and what and how, they don't really match up, in my opinion. So voting goes so far, only goes so far. You have to be willing to piss people off. You have to be willing to ask questions. You have to be willing. I ask people all the time. I love asking pastors this. How can the oppressed, especially Christians, how can the oppressed and the oppressor praise the same God? I'm not necessarily telling you how I feel about that, but I'm just asking, let me ask the question. How does the oppressed and oppressor praise the same God? And people get tight on that question because, God loves us all. Yeah, sure. But we have these words like diversify, POC, equality. That stuff doesn't exist. There's somebody right now that can't breathe as well as you. I don't know if you all like have asthma or anything like that, but there's someone that can't breathe as well as me, and he has to have an asthma pump because he can't. Right? Am I going to cry and complain about me not having an asthma pump or whatever? No, because I can breathe right. But that person can't, and they need to breathe. So what's up? Like, so no, that equality doesn't exist all the time. And it's these little buzzwords and these symbols that folks just get satisfied with. And so people can vote, cool. People can't vote, cool. What are you going to do to shift the mentality, shift your thinking, shift your approach, and be able to make sure that you go to the table with unified, dressed solutions to hold folks accountable that say that they are going to represent us locally, statewide, and a federal and state in the nation.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So, I mean, and I always like talking to you about this stuff because we do it on a regular. On a scale of 1 to 10, though, I need that. Scale of 1 to 10, how important is it?
I don't do scales. I'm sorry.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Look at you. All right. So is it important or isn't it? Yes or no? Give me that. I don't need anything else. Yes or no? Is it important or isn't it?
4.
No, you don't have to give me a scale. I mean, I'm just saying, is it or isn't it? Because I mean, we'll say that we want certain things, but then we'll also say that it's, you know what I mean? I'm not going to necessarily, like you just said, which you put awesomely, you know what I mean? We'll go when it's convenient for us, but then we complain about things not being changed, or we'll complain about the outcome of what's going on. So my question is simply, do you think it's important or not? Because I'm gonna shift to D here in a second. Do you think it's important or not? First time.
Everybody has the right to vote if they choose to vote. If you vote, I hope that you stay consistent and stay persistent with making sure that folks that represent us, are being active. And if you choose not to vote, I hope you're not just choosing to do nothing at all. I hope that you are being active and engaging in conversations that are going to be able to change the identity that represent us in politics, so we can get to that question where I want to say yes. I'm sorry, I can't necessarily answer that question.
No, and I get you, and you have your opinion. I'm not, either way. My question, and the reason that I asked that is because, again, you make some very good points, and you and I we talk all the time about these things. I want to ask the question with like a focus on the fact that if there's things that need to happen, you shouldn't necessarily, in my opinion, and this is the way I feel about it. And I'm gonna shift to you, D. But do you think that it's important to vote, especially if you want these things to change? Being consistent is one thing, but you know what I mean. In order to be consistent, you know what I mean. You have to be a regular participant, or you have to know exactly what you're trying to accomplish. And if you don't participate, you know what I mean? Is it important to you? Because like you said, man, I have to agree with you in some cases. I mean, I'm at the barbershop all the time and they're talking about it. They're like, man, you know what? I'm not voting for this person, or I'm not going to vote for that person. So what are you going to do? I'm just not going to vote. What do you mean?
Let me clean that part up before you go to D.
Okay. All right.
Me personally, I'm not. I'm a vote for myself for the presidency, or Ye may get my vote. Be honest with you. But everything else under the presidential, I am making sure that I vote for, because it is conceptually it is essential, and I don't want to make it seem like it's not. But also, you can't be voting for the grave quickly or slowly. The way that things are set up right now. So
gotcha. All right, and we'll come back to that. And I appreciate you. Listen, man, one thing that I know about you in the time that I've got to meet you, know you, and learn the things about you is that, you're transparent. And I like that. You know what I'm saying? You're transparent. You're going to keep it 100, right? So D, I'm going to shift to you. Do you in your opinion, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for people to get out and vote?
I think it's very important, period, because the way that the system is set up, when you don't do it, then you're charging everyone else around you to do it, and I've been involved in a lot of ways and a lot of levels. And when you don't get involved, nothing you say really matters, because you didn't do the action that matters. So all of these wonderful thoughts that any person can have, we're in a participatory democracy. And regardless of how anybody feels about it, when you don't participate, you're really not participating. You're really not actively engaged in it. Now, if you feel that that's not important, that's fine. I don't agree with that. I don't think that, especially as Black people in this country, we could have ever even possibly be where we are today, where we see more Black people in this democracy than we've ever had. We're always going to have challenges in this structure that we're in for a myriad of reasons. Obviously, the history that this country is beset upon still plagues us to this day. But we have more Black people in Congress, more women in Congress, more Black mayors, more Black people in areas that were never there generations ago. And so if we just had a casualness about voting, if we promoted that casualness, if we thought that that was okay on any level, would we even be where we are? The answer would be absolutely not. And so when I think about, some of the people like the John Lewises who just passed, along with another great CeCe Vivian and others, if they had that casual thought about voting, if they felt like, it's not that important, do what you want, where would we be? And there's a lot that many of us can't speak to, because most of us don't know anything about the political history and all of the strands that happen. Like you say, on the ticket, it may not be on the national level where you're voting for a president along with everything else. But, it's very important, because it's a lot less about the president in a lot of ways than it is about your local area. And everybody lives somewhere. And so you need to understand those people that are governing the space you're in. And then if you don't like what they're doing, you should show up at the town halls and speak on it. And then and hold them accountable. And if not, get them out. That's what I told you earlier. One of the things I did in the city I'm still involved in is nurture us up. Now we got a Black woman that's getting ready to be mayor. And so, you know, when I look at that, and I look at the fact that we have a Black council, a mostly Black council, and on, I think of all of that, and it makes me realize the value of it and how important it is for us to get involved and for us to nurture the community up and to nurture up some of us into these positions so that we can represent these issues in bigger ways. And, you know, and we can look at a lot of other ethnic groups that do much the same. Mm-hmm. And we have benefited from it. Even the fact that a lot of us didn't participate. I think that the fact that we still had a great number of Black participants in this democracy, especially over the last, you know, many decades, if we didn't have a civil rights legislation and some of those things that happened in the mid 60s, would my parents have been able to provide the life they were able to provide us? Would they have gotten those jobs if some of those affirmative action programs, for example, didn't exist in employment, you know? And a myriad of other things that are just so transparent to us, we take it for granted. Like, it'd just be as like it is now if we didn't do nothing. No, it would not. And like has been uttered in the past, you know, we can have a democracy if we can keep it, you know, and politics is whatever we say it is. And so we have to change the conversation like we're doing. You know, if Black Lives Matter was just some symbol, for example, and not tied to wanting to see the changes, you know, no one ever starts off with a finished product. And so there's a lot of things that I hear that I don't like that sound wrong, like defunding the police. No, I think that we need to redefine how police engage in communities. And so, and we need to do that in a myriad of ways. I don't think that when you just say defund the police, I don't like the way that sounds. You know, do they have importance? Yes. There's a lot of problems with them. Abso-doggone-lutely. But beyond that, if we don't participate and all we do is just think about it and get upset about it and don't go out and actually hold these people accountable. I'm one of those people in the community that gets out in the community. I go to town halls in several cities. I sit on town hall conference calls on a regular basis. And so I'm paying attention to what's going on in my local area. I'm paying attention to what's going on with my specific officials. And I'm bringing up things, not just to myself, but to other people in the community as well. And so that's why participation is critical. Somebody has to do it. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? Is it just going to fix itself? We're just going to hope it's going to evolve without participation? That'll never happen. And so,
but you said earlier, that we get into these like these thoughts of saying I don't like the way how things sound when it comes from someone else, and then like just right now you said like I don't like the way it sounds for defund the police. I agree with you. The way that some people may use it, be like, hey, I don't know, you went a little too far with it, but it's things like, so what I'm saying is we have to take the money and the power that we've put into these infrastructures completely out and redesign it. When you redesign anything, when you put up infrastructure,
but you can't do that unless you participate. You can't do that by not voting. You can't do that by having a casualness about the process of voting. You know, that energy, that idea is counterproductive to the whole concept of participating. It's not about, I said that I don't like the way it sounds. I'm about what it is. I'm saying that we probably can do a better job of redefining what that is without it sounding like we're getting rid of the police, you know, because I definitely want to get rid of, I want to get rid of a lot of things. I've actually sat in these conversations. See, I'm not somebody that just reads a bunch of memes on Facebook and IG and thinks they woke and get hip about some things. So I've been in these conversations at these levels talking about these concepts and how these things hurt us against what we're trying to do and how we need to talk about the same thing, but in a way that doesn't scare people and to make people think that we're just trying to give it all away and then throw the whole thing back out. Now we're 5 years behind. You know, it's just like when I hear this defund the police, for example, like I want to change policing. I want to reform it. There's a lot of things. I'll give you an example. For example, why would the police ever pull somebody over for a bad tag? This is not what is an effective use of a police officer. It's a waste of time. It inconveniences the public. Now you are creating a police contact unnecessarily, because if your tag is bad in any state in the United States of America, the state knows this and they penalize you. And so you're already in the system. So, for example, that's one example that I would do away with, along with all this other stuff. Of course, the obvious is obvious, the brutality, the profiling, but I'm just giving you some very specific things like that can be quantified, that we can take completely off the table, along with a lot of other things. But I'm just saying that the concept is redefining how we have a community.
All right, so
and then deciding what police do in that community.
One second, D. One second. Go ahead, Kels. What do you have?
1,000,000,000%. We could go back and forth all day about exactly what those things are. As I sit on in these police meetings and stuff like that. Unity Partnership is an organization that I sit on the board of, helping redefine the connections that community have with law enforcement. To me, blah blah, because we've had sit-ins. Just like I think sitting off the ballot is not a bad thing if you choose to do something with it. So sure, I mean, people
like
can
what?
say so.
Whoa! Like what? Define
your
that.
Opinion. I'm giving that to you. Of your opinion, you said if you don't vote, if you don't participate, then your opinion becomes valid. I would argue that Colin Kaepernick has had much more involvement and influence throughout the country without voting than a lot of folks that sit on the Congress and sit in political seats have. And now you start to see. So if you want to, if we want to like be okay with, I'm not saying it's you necessarily, but if we want to be okay with symbols and this, that, and the third, bringing in, chief diversity officers into, the NBA finally, and bringing folks into the NFL, he's changed that, and I can give him that. But we get into this box and bag of like forgetting. Change does not happen without war somehow, some way. It don't necessarily mean you got to shoot somebody, but somebody gonna have to lose something. And we keep saying like, oh, go vote for this, go vote for that, go vote for this, go vote for that, and I'm just like, no, it's not. Sometimes you got to stop participating in order to change things. Sometimes you have to redefine and redesign what it is that you want to do. Like schools, well, I get why every school is Eurocentric because of the folks that captured us. But
absolutely,
we at the point now where we understand that folks don't respond best to an A, B, C, D answer, and being able to sit in school and be regurgitating information through an A, B, C, D test. We can look at ACT, SAT, standardized testing, and see how ineffective it is. We can see that the way that we beat our kids, or folks that got whoopings and stuff like that because they got bad grades on the test and other. Why did that same parent that whooped their kid for getting bad grades, not go to the teacher, go to the school board meeting and say, you know what, hey, how are y'all teaching these kids? Why is it only fitting Eurocentric culture? It's not fitting Afrocentric culture. Why don't we look at these colleges and say, hey, why is your bill so high? Why is the tuition so high when these kids are they're studying at my crib? They're going through we're going through COVID right now. There's so many things that we just participate in, and we give people the illusion that we're behind it. We give folks the illusion that, oh, you know what, Kamala, we're good with you locking up all black people for CBD charges and starting privately owned prisons and moving folks over so you could help support all of these other companies that benefit your pocket. No, we have to stop participating on these things because it gives the wrong illusion that we are supporting these out of touch and crazy behaviors that puts us back thousands of years. So even if we stop participating, I'm not saying don't participate in anything that affects your community. I'm saying participate in things, are redesigning, redefining exactly what that is.
Okay. D, did you have a response to that? Because there was a couple of things that you all said. I mean, I have to tell you,
strategy. You can't just decide to just not engage. not engaging without a strategy is like engaging without one. So
I don't want to wait. I don't want us to say like I don't have a strategy. I'm saying I keep saying like
yeah,
strategy. I don't want that.
When you say what you say, you have to, sometimes you may have to understand what it sounds like. And so when Colin Kaepernick did what he did and does what he does, there's a strategy behind it. It's not just, initially it was about showing his dissent about what's going on. After that, it became a bigger strategy, and out of that, you see it's connecting into a lot of different spaces and it's making people think. So we're having these conversations now. That's a good thing. So in that, it's just like in a boycott, for example. That's a strategy of not participating that has an actual effect for a specific outcome. So so I'm about that, I'm about changing what we do to make things different. I just think that it's very important how we communicate things and be very mindful of that.
Right. So I love this discussion. I'm just saying, I love it. I mean, I'll say this: if there was one that in me asking, I'd asked, well, I'll just do this. I'll go ahead and move over to this next question, and then I'll come back to this because it kind of ties into this. Do you guys think that the upcoming election is important, and why?
I think they're always important, just in the sense that, because again, it's about participating. And you're never going to agree, again, even in politics, that's not possible. If you're waiting on some candidate that is going to be perfect or that can't evolve, then we'll all be waiting. Every candidate has things that they've done that they actually had to evolve from. And hopefully you selected somebody that has that capability, because to wait for a perfect candidate, we'll be waiting forever. Nobody's ever going to be that. And coming through, no matter where you find a person, no matter where you find their background, whether it's coming from business like the one that's in office now, or whether it's coming from military backgrounds and growing into councilmen and becoming or whatever it is, you're not going to agree with every decision they make, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but it's hard for me to imagine a future that doesn't have a lot of people that are not like the mainstream has been for years in it. And yeah, the idea is that, you got your Clarence Thomas, which is a very extreme, far side of things. And then you have people that are very liberal, that, and I don't know who we could call a very liberal Black person, but, I definitely want to see diversity, like you say. And what is diversity? It means not white. Unfortunately, if that's a negative to some people, I apologize, but not really. And I say that because, this, again, it's a participatory democracy. And if you have mostly only one type that continues to be in these positions of authority at all these various levels, it's no wonder that they don't incorporate how we feel and think about it. So, yeah, it's important that we nurture people that are diverse, that are not necessarily white, but that are females, that are young, old, but that come from different backgrounds into these positions of authority in order for there to be a more collective change. Because if we just keep voting for the same type of person, that's one of the reasons why we can listen to the utterances of men that have long since passed, and they're still very relevant as the conversation that we're having right now.
Right. So let me ask you, Kels. I mean, you had mentioned earlier that, on a national level, you're not really tripping. If you vote for somebody, it might end up being, yay. You know what I'm saying? And Do you think that this election is important?
Presidential? No, not at all. At all. At all.
Tell us.
One of I can look at the crime bill 93. I mean, you told me what you felt about folks that look like me. You told me and showed me how you feel about people that express themselves in a particular manner that you're not comfortable with. Trump showed me what hate looks like. Trump showed me what disdain looks like. Trump showed me what disrespect looks like, what racism looks like. What, who, why? And I know I have to agree with everybody. Sure, but who the hell, who resonates with me? I'm not picking the one that closely represents me at 2%. No, and I'm not voting for any identity of a D or an R. I don't care that much. I don't care that much, to be honest with you. And so one thing I want to make sure that I'm making clear, just because you don't participate in voting for the presidential race does not mean you're not participating in anything else. So if there's young folks out there that is listening to this, please understand that I'm saying that it's not necessarily always showing up to the voting polls, because we've seen history of showing us that we could vote for A or B and both choices are trash and wrong. And so we can't necessarily be too upset at the result of it. But you can always be involved locally. You can always find a local election to be a part of. You can always go to your school board meetings. You can always go to your the business borough meetings and stuff like that. There are plenty of ways. Your school board, school government. There's always ways for you to be involved that with things that are going to directly impact you. I don't necessarily care to be involved in any of the lesser than two evils joint. I think we need more than A or B choice, to be honest with you. And everybody that's up there right now that's representing the president, vice president on both sides have shown me trash reasons to vote. And so what I can't do when I'm 40 years old, if I'm blessed enough to bring a kid into this world, I can't let the young folks talk to me like, dang, Kel's like, you voted for this? You voted for this dude? Oh, well, the other option was just as bad, but I thought this was less bad. Nah, come on. I can't fold. I cannot fold. Can't do it.
I hear you.
Can't do it.
No, I hear you. I have to tell you, obviously, again, we talk, so I kind of know how you feel. Same thing with you, D. I have to say this though. I feel like, when it comes to us talking about, the lesser of two evils or what we have out there, D, you made it a point to say, okay, well, if we keep picking or voting for what we've always had, we're always going to get what we've always got, right? So the dynamic in the country was, okay, well, let's put this businessman in office and let him run the country like a business. And as a result of it, he has squandered what he's been doing, right? All the way down to the way that he's handled this whole COVID thing, and 200+ thousand lives already gone. So I would argue to say that if there was, even if it's the lesser of two evils, I get what you're saying, Markel, straight up. But even if it's the lesser of two evils, if we have someone that knows how to run government, and then I'm going to go back to what we said in the very beginning, even if we have someone that knows how to run government, also knows how to negotiate the deals, overseas and so on and so forth, to make sure that we have the right things in place to prevent our country from being locked down and being in a pandemic right now, or stopping that stuff. We also go back to the very beginning where we were talking about the great divide and the way that we think as individuals, and older generation and younger generation. We have to be able to look to say, okay, someone has gone through a progression and has learned. That's where growth happens. You know what I'm saying? It's a different story if we've gone through some things and we don't recognize it, that, okay, I bumped my head. Just like you said, Markel, you said, I've falling and scraping my knee and my elbow and all of that stuff. We got to be able to learn. But who's to say that these individuals that we put in power, that made the decisions that they made back then, haven't gone through those same bumps and bruises and have learned and are putting things in place? Now, again, that's just my take on it. But again, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, I personally think that, yes, that this election is important on a number of different levels, right? Because of the individuals that are running things right now, things have not gotten better. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not being political or anything. This just happens to be what we're talking about. But if you want to sit here and say that things have gotten better, or I'm going to choose to vote for someone that may or may not have an opportunity to even win, just to put my vote out there, you're not helping the dynamic of what we're going through right now. And to your point, D, I'll say that yes, absolutely, things have to go through their changes, their ebbs and flows, and things of that nature. I truly believe that that this election is massively important, because to your point again, I'm not going to. I have two children, and they're asking me, what am I going to do, and why am I going to do it? I can't. I want to be able to say to my grandchildren, this is what I've done. This is what transpired as a result of it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to just sit on the sideline and just watch the thing go. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go here. Unless one of you have anything else you want to add on that, I have one last question for both of you. All right, beautiful. All right, here we go. How do you all feel about having a female, a woman, in office, in the White House, whether it's president or vice president? You know what I mean? How do you feel about it? And obviously, we're talking about Kamala. You know what I mean? And her obviously, you know what I mean, having a strong a path right now that she could become the first woman vice president.
You know, me personally, I think we've long since needed, not just now, but long before now, you know, a female in power at that level, you know, and obviously at some point we're going to get there, and we're right on the cusp of that being a possibility and a reality now. But, you know, I think that as a man that has worked in 20 years in the private sector, many years, you know, in government now, and done a lot of things. You know, I've worked for men, I've worked for women, and I've worked for white men, I've worked for black men, I've worked for white women, I've worked for black women. And I can tell you that I definitely appreciate the leadership and just their approach. I think that also too, because women have not come from having that level of power, you know, I would think that they would come to it with some sensibilities and differences that we can benefit from as a country. And then beyond that, there's always symbolism in things too. It's not about just what you do; it's also the symbol of what you do. And I think that for a lot of women that are babies now and kids now and are in school now and growing up, I think that it will go a long way in some very real ways, symbolically speaking, in their own psyche. You know, that can give, and obviously being a father of a daughter, and so on. You know, the kind of energy and power that can come from, you know, our young girls watching women rise into power. And so, yeah, I think that it's very important. I think it's more than time. And you know, and do I think they're going to do a great job? I think they're going to probably do a better job than probably most men have done, to be quite honest.
Right. What about you, Kels?
Yeah, I want to say I don't think that this world looks the way that it does with us on it if it wasn't for women. I think that women are absolutely essential and mad important for where we are today, and it's been the railings to keep us in line, keep us in check in all facets of life. So for any woman in any position in any industry, I just want to say thank you. I am mad grateful. I think most of my mentors are women. And so I'm very grateful for the leadership and the constant and persistent pursuit of making sure that this roller coaster of life stays on track. I think that it's all due in all things to women.
Right on. I have to tell you, I agree with both of you. Listen, it's been a pleasure to have both of you on board, man. Listen, Markel, it's always a pleasure, my brother. You know what I mean? I love talking to you. I know I'm gonna end up talking to you before the week is over. Is there anything that you want to, any final words you want to say? You know what I mean? I got your social media going across the bottom. You can tell people where to find you and hear your message and what you're trying to get done.
Yeah, I just wanna give a shout out and thank you again for having me. I want to give a shout out to Elemental Flow for the rings. You got to keep your peace with
Well,
you
I just
wherever
want
you
to
go. And
say
I want to
that
Go ahead. Go ahead, Markel.
Yeah, and I also want to give a shout out to my boys at 109 that are hooking it up, and just grateful for the opportunity to be here on this platform, and for folks out there that feel the way that I do, that feel frustrated and feel like we've fought history, we've paid attention to the trends and analysis of things that have happened before. Don't sit out to just sit out. Don't sit out because you want to break. Don't sit out because you're frustrated. If you're going to sit out, if you're not going to vote, still be active in how we can reshape and redesign everything that's going on, from the way that you are a brother, a friend, a father, a mother, a wife, a daughter, a teacher, whatever the case may be. Find ways to be better and shift the mentality so we can start producing folks that are not just eligible, but are efficient in spots to lead us. Um, yeah, and I just want to say shout out to all of the essential workers. I want to say a thank you to all teachers that are going through everything that they're going through. I feel truly so bad for the students, but my hearts are with all those that are in the education field that's taken on this beast in different manners, and just want to let you know that us in the working world, we appreciate the work that you all do and producing relevant content for these kids, and sticking out this tough time so folks can be prepared for whatever is next in this crazy time. So thank you to all the teachers and other essential health workers out there in the world.
Right on. Thank you, Markel. D, what final words would you like to say?
Well, I'd like to say thanks to you for having me. I appreciate meeting Quells there and having this broad conversation. Um,
Right.
and I definitely look forward to the things that we're doing, and continuing to nurture our community, to nurture each other, and to be a part of the change that we want to see. And so, again, I think that, if we learn to listen to each other, learn to extend our humanity one to the other, it's never about agreeing with everything or liking everything, but finding a way that we can move things forward, and having a strategy when we do whatever we do. But again, thanks for the opportunity, and I appreciate it.
Right on, right on. Well, thank both of you, man. I have to tell you, I knew this was going to be a robust discussion, like straight up. I knew it was going to be big. You know what I mean? And I know that the best part about it is that now that we've created this synergy, that there's going to be more conversations, other things that we're going to talk about. Again, I didn't necessarily want this to morph into anything that has to do with politics, because if you know me and you follow my channels and things of that nature, I don't talk about politics. I'm talking about growth, I'm talking about mindset. I'm talking about thinking outside the box, and how we can be better as individuals and as collectively. You know what I mean? So for both of you, thank you for being on. That's first. Secondly, I want to congratulate both of you for being on the very first Time is Life podcast. And as a result of it, I'm going to get you some Get Up t-shirts. I'm going to send them out to you. Again,
Yes, sir.
again, sponsored by
Extra
Just
large.
Me. I got you, brother. Don't even trip. I got you. I'm gonna leave it with this, and and this is for everybody who's watching. I mean, when it comes to communicating, it's in trying to bridge the gap and bridge the divide and things of that nature. it's got to be about having open lines of communication, but not just having those open lines of communication. It's also about making sure that you're willing to listen. There's a lot of work to be done, right? There's a whole lot of work that need to be done. But if it's to be, it has to start with me. And, getting all your feelings out of the way. You know what I mean? It's not about how you feel. It's really about the work that we can do to become better, right? So with that being said, again, I appreciate you, tuning in. If you don't know, now you know. You can follow me on YouTube at Kevin White's Time is Life, as well as IG. On Twitter, it's Lil Peoples, Lil Peoples 2. I got that name from my father. He was the first Lil Peoples. Rest his soul. He's watching over me right now. As well as you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook just by searching Kevin White. So again, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Markel, D, I appreciate you both being on. And with that being said, it's a wrap, baby.